Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to the final round of the Sim Racers Asia GTE Series live from Sebring. My name is Marco Barbanera. We've got Scott Newton behind the cameras and of course with me in the commentary box it's Wei Han. Hello Wei Han.
Hello everyone, hello Marco, hello Scott. This is it, isn't it Marco? The season finale of what has been an exciting and amazing season of racing, GTE series here at this time by Sim Racers Asia. Of course, 10 weeks of racing and it's going to be a fight to the last race tonight. And we come to you from Sebring. Of course, this circuit has so much history. That's in every single corner meter section of this circuit here.
I mean, every corner has a little bit of banking and there is no way you can avoid those very tough bumps. Everywhere you have to be very careful on where you position your car because it's going to be super hard on the suspensions, on the drivers, and of course there are some of the most beautiful and classic corners in the history of motorsport. And before we take you around and we show you a little bit of the track and the qualifying, I think it's good to go straight to the standings before this final race of the season. As we see that Sebring is the leader with 807 points in front of Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira 701, Ahmad Nurazam 633, Mike Burdett 622, Abhiraf Triputra 585, Lachlan Crowe is in 6th, 557, then Brian Renforce 546, Simon Sanchez 540, Peter Claviter in 9th place with 532, and rounding up the top 10 is Alex Paul with 450 points. So Sebring has a very good lead over Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira. There are 90 points for a race win. Plus drivers can get bonus points for clean races and stuff like that. So theoretically, I think Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira still has a chance, but I think that Mr. Jolly only has to take the green flag in order to declare himself the champion, barring any unforeseen circumstances like post-race penalties, disqualification, etc., which we don't think is going to happen. But still, it was a neck-and-neck season between these two drivers, and like you said in the beginning, what a beautiful place to end this championship here in Sebring. It's going to be a fantastic race.
Absolutely. Although the results that you see on screen tonight, these are the championship points that they have, but it is still before the drop weeks. Because each drivers, they are entitled to one drop week. The worst performing race points scored from there will be excluded from the final points calculations. So Lopez de Oliveira second in the overall championship tables, but he is actually in the clubman class. So already, I think he's already the champion of that class, or maybe depending on how the race will unfold tonight.
So, a quick word about the track, and we, of course, all the motorsports enthusiasts know this track, but if you don't know, basically, this is an airport field converted into a racetrack, and it shares a lot of characteristics with an actual airport, like, of course, long straight and bumpy surface. If you've ever been on a plane that's about to take off, you know it's never a smooth ride until the plane goes up in the air. And the track can be divided in roughly a couple of sections. In the beginning you have the left-hander, the turn 1, always chaotic at the start of the races, then a very complicated section between corner 2 and corner 5, then hard braking zone at the hairpin at turn 7, then a fast section through Fangio, hard braking zone again, then you go straight to the right-hander that brings you into a series of basically straights. You had the straight that brings you to turn 13, turn 14, turn 15, and then the very long backstretch almost straight, and of course final corner of the track, Sunset Bend, one of the most iconic corners in all of motorsports. Not only Wei Han, it is a difficult angle to come into the corner and go out of the corner, but the bumps are extremely bad. We are going to see these cars basically move left and right as their suspension try to cope with this absolutely terrible final corner.
Absolutely, especially for this final corner, you can't really see the apex. It is very blind. It's a triple apex corner, in fact. The apexes are blind, and coupled with the bumpiness of that corner, it's going to be very difficult for the drivers to handle their car, much less taking this corner too wide. So it's going to be really interesting, as in fact that is the final corner, so it is actually possible for them to battle and change their positions at that point of the track. And now we ride on board this Ford GT. I think this could be the sole Ford GT of this racing session. Of course, Jamal Gandour, very fast driver. He currently sits in P7 of provisional qualifying. Of course, his lap time is now 1:57.022. And he takes this first corner. You can also see for yourself how long and blind the first corner is.
This section here is extremely tough, as you can see, trying to get a good line through these corners, and you have to make a little bit of compromises here and there, and then you go in, put on the gas pedal, and then, a hard braking zone for the hairpin here at turn 7. Very easy to overshoot this corner. You see, he has tried to hit the curb and getting as smooth as possible. Another fast left-hander, another hard braking zone here. As you can see, the pit structure, I think those are the some of the airport structure, because there is still an active airport around the track, so it's not like maybe a Silverstone, for example, where it's a former airfield, like it's very common in the UK. This is a proper airport, and you can see Wei Han just by the onboard, the bumps are extremely hard in this everywhere in the track basically. But I mean, now we are going to get into the backstretch and the most difficult corner of the entire circuit.
Now let's have a look at how Jamal is going to navigate his car through this final corner. So as he approaches this corner in top speed, begins his slight braking, then downshifting. I can't really see a gear indicator there, but you can just have a look at how he decreases his speed progressively as he enters and makes his way through the corner. At the corner exit there are actually a few lines that you can take. So it's going to be interesting to see how some drivers may pick a certain racing line suitable for the car, as he's contacted the inside wall there. Yes, we may see a bit of that later on as well. Lopez de Oliveira, the man in green, currently leading the Clubman class. Well, of course, I think it's fast enough to race in the Pro-Am class. So he makes his way through that hairpin. You can see how tight that corner is.
Yeah, as we see this green Ferrari, I mean, himself and Jolly have been battling all season long, but provisional pole now is from a wild card for this event, a very special guest that we are very happy to have with us. It's Michael Evdoka, the defending Euro V8 supercar champion, and he's in the provisional pole, and I think he's a very fast driver, and he's just in front of Jaiserin Jali and Lopez Oliveira. So these three guys might be the three protagonists of this race. And what is the mindset, you think, especially when you are Evdoka, when you are Jali and Oliveira, as Jali goes into pole now? What is your mindset when you are, battling for the title and you have a wild card battling for you there in the front of the field, basically? So how would you behave if you were one of these two drivers and you have a wild card? Do you let him go and have your race and just think about your championship rival, or you go and battle with him knowing that he has nothing to lose from this race because he's a wild card?
Well, specific to this series, because here in Sim Racers Asia, it's more about the consistency of your finishing position each race rather than the amount of wins that you can get for yourself. So I would not be that worried with a wildcard driver. Of course, Evdoka, he is the defending V8 Supercars champion on iRacing. I believe that's what I understand from what you mentioned earlier. Although in any other series or any other competitive racing series, I would still want to push myself to the maximum and look at that wildcard driver as a kind of a benchmark performance.
As the checker flag is in the air, but we are waiting for some of the drivers to finish their lap. For example, this beautiful Porsche of Grand Crow sitting in P4 right now, trying to get into the top 3 as he goes screaming past the start-finish line. But he will not improve on his time, and it's a temporary P4 for him. Let's see Sam Fitzpatrick in his red and blue Ferrari, Michael Evdoka's teammate, and I think also team boss, if I'm not mistaken, and of course our Apex Racing TV colleague. Onto the start-finish line for Sam Fitzpatrick. He stays there. I mean, the field is very, very contained, in a matter of a couple of seconds, I think, especially all these very fast drivers are all there. So there's 1 second between P1 and P9. It's going to be interesting as we come to the end of qualifying, and I think that Mr. Wei Han has got your starting grid for today.
Absolutely. Driver on pole for tonight. Great to see Jasrin Jali back again on pole. Of course, he's the current championship leader. And he set his pole. That would usually be the position that we'd see Niranjan Kumar occupying, but we've not really seen him tonight. So Jali takes pole, and alongside him is wildcard driver, defending V8 Supercars champion on iRacing, Michael Evdoka. Sorry if I butchered your name there. 1 minute 55.972. Not much time apart for both of them. Lopez de Oliveira takes P3, and Grand Crow will start from 4th. Peter Carter, his own teammate, starts behind him in 5th, and Ahmad Norazam will start from 6th. Simon Sanchez and Sam Fitzpatrick, they take row for P7 and P8. Jamal Gandour and Federico Teixeira, P9 and P10, rounding up your top 10 there. And the drivers, or rather, Paul Nelson, he's set his lap time of 158.439. He takes P11, and Saiful Arifin just joined this race session, yet to haven't been able to set a qualifying lap time. He rounds up your grid at P12.
Yes, and get your coffees ready, your teas ready, whatever ready, because it's going to be a decently long pace lap. So just bear with us as we will follow the pace car around a lap of Sebring International Raceway, as I think the sun is setting on this racetrack. It gets a beautiful sky, especially when you watch the 12-hour race in real life. You see, because it's the period where the certain kinds of trees are basically blossoming, flowering. You see the early evening sky being this beautiful deep orange color, and it's amazing to watch as the pace car is rolling, and we see the drivers getting ready as Paul Nelson is stuck on the starting grid. Here is moving finally the Coca-Cola Porsche, making a nice comeback in this final three races of the season, I think, after missing, I think, the middle part of the championship. Good to have him back.
"12 drivers on the grid tonight. Not exactly the size that we've been seeing compared to earlier this season, but going to be exciting nonetheless, because the fast drivers have remained here, and they're going to have a good show for us tonight.
So everyone is keeping a nice alignment more or less, as we have to be very, very careful, especially around these tight corners under pacing. You don't want to get any unnecessary damage. The strategy for today: one stopper as per usual. We're going to have a 1 hour race, and these guys are going to come in just for their fuel, no tires, and they are going to take their stop as late as possible. This being a very long track, Wei Han, I don't think that traffic is going to be an issue after the pit stops. So you can come in basically whenever you want, and usually the later you stop, the better.
Of course, these cars, the tires that these cars use are really very durable. They're actually made to run for a couple of hours at one go, so perhaps no real reason, no real need rather for them to have to change tires. As we see the cars making their way through this right-hander, and this section that they're about to embark on, it will be a high-speed section. So we may see a bit of drag racing here, a lot of slipstream here perhaps, and generally a more exciting section here.
Yes, as we are getting ready for the start, we are very close to the backstretch and then Sunset Bend. You have to be very careful when you floor it on Sunset Bend, because yes, these cars have got traction control, but sometimes it's you push the gas pedal down whilst you are going over a bump, and there's no traction control that can help you with that. You are going to go around. So hopefully these guys take it a bit easier in the beginning of the race. As we see, actually I think there are 3 Fords in the field today, so good to see a nice mixture of Ferraris, Porsches and Fords today.
So as they approach this Sunset Bend, before they take the green flag, these cars right now they're taking it slower, so we can have a look at the ideal line that they may want to take. As the safety car is about to make its way into the pits, it will be green flag anytime between now and race start. Green flag, Jaswin Jali leads the field there in P1. Great pull away there. Michael Evdoka in P2, and side by side go Lopez de Oliveira and Grand Crow in P3 and P4. A bit of jostling there as we've got a couple of cars in the background side by side as they make their way through turn 1. Jali already pulling up a huge gap ahead of P2, and now it does look like a bit of a move there, and some mistake there. I think that is one of the Macau cars that have gone out, and at the moment cars beginning to filter into a single file, and your top 5, Jasui Jali, Michael Evdoka, Lopez de Oliveira, Grant Crow, Peter Clouter, positions are as such.
Great start, great professional start in the front of the field. There has been, I think only Federico Teixeira had a little bit of a problem. Now he's in the back of the field, but apart from that, we see everybody respecting each other. And in the first few corners, Oliveira tried to go by Evdoka, but Evdoka had a great defense through that first section. And now there's Jali, Evdoka and Oliveira top 3 with Crow being very close to the 3rd position, and already a little bit of a gap forming between P4 and P5 with Glaviter and Fitzpatrick battling it out for that 5th position. Of course, very early days, we still have to complete 1 lap as the cars go to Allman Straight for the first time today. And of course,
along the backstretch they come.
Yeah,
Marco.
Yeah, and of course for the first time they will go through Sunset Bend. Look at the drafting here, amazing stuff as Evdoka tries to go for first place, making himself seen on the inside, on the right side mirrors of Jali, who keeps his cool, but I mean, this is going to be a great battle, Wei Han, as Evdoka goes for it on the inside of turn 1.
No defensive driving there by Jali, although Evdoka has just taken it on the inside. Along the inside goes Evdoka through turn 1, and Jali drops down to P2. Lopez de Oliveira now, his turn perhaps to make a move on Jali, although he didn't really quite make that. Grand Crow also looking to have a slice of the pie. And your new race leader here at lap 2, Michael Evdoka, he leads Jasui Jali now onto this section as they now come along this hairpin and they begin braking hard here. Right hairpin, a sharp hairpin, and it looks like, ooh, Lopez Oliveira flashing his lights at Charlie there. Not too sure what that is, what that means. So we could potentially see, yeah, very much battle for P2 here. Leonardo trying to have a look at it along the inside, but does not quite make it. And now Evdoka beginning to form a little breakaway of his own from the rest of the grid.
And I don't know why, maybe because of Evdoka's move, but Clawiter and Fitzpatrick have been able to close the gap, so this is effectively a 6-car lead pack, as Evdoka is trying to put a little bit of a gap instead on P2, and Jolly seems to have a little bit of a slower pace, because Evdoka is pulling away, and now Oliveira is extremely close to him. Let's see the drafting once again on the backstretch, as Crow tries for a move on the inside of Oliveira, so you are never safe basically in this track. Oliveira trying to defend his position.
So the Fitzpatrick there, he tried to make a move, but he didn't really quite make it. The backstretch is just not long enough for you to commit a move. As they come back on the main stretch, it is, I believe, Evdoka still leading. Charlie P2, a bit of mistake by Lopez Oliveira. He goes a slight bit wide, just a bit wide off the racing line, and he has Grand Crow along the inside, but he now retains P3. No! Grand Crow there now, side by side they come through this section. Is this going to be a switch of positions? Ah, it does look like. Oh! Out goes Grand Crow. Unfortunate there. Lopez Oliveira still holds on to P3, although he has pressure from Sam Fitzpatrick in P4. As Fitzpatrick now tries to make a move on the inside, not really successful in that. And Peter Carter also coming up to P5, trying to gun them down.
Yeah, Oliveira surprising me negatively, because it looks like he doesn't have any kind of pace right now after a good start of the race. Now he's lost a position to Jolly, and behind him Fitzpatrick and Clawiter are extremely close. You were right about Grand Crow. He was able to save the car, so he went out on the grass, and now we have an onboard shot from the Ferrari, chasing the Ferrari. It's Sam Fitzpatrick chasing Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira, as we are into the final part of this third lap. As you see, the cars here take an extremely wide entry to the backstretch in order to maximize their speed here as they go and enter Sunset Bend, which is named like so because, as you can see, the sunset is right in front of you. Going to be nice with the dynamic weather and the day-night cycle to have the sun go down in that corner when you are racing.
Pretty much very helpful there, those cones along the apexes of that final corner of Sunset Bend. Good for them to judge their apex, as Lopez de Oliveira leads Sam Fitzpatrick down through turn 1, and he leads Peter Clawiter there as well. Now up to turn 2 they come. Of course, this section is also rather tricky because you've actually got to maintain a line and not eat the curbs too much there. As we just said, that Leonardo just done that through that corner. As they now come through the big bend, long right-hander and a short shoot here before a hard braking for a right hand, I think first gear hairpin. Oh, mistake there by Peter Clawiter.
Yeah.
So both ISR Simsa cars plagued today by incidents of their own. So Peter Clawiter now dropping to P8. His teammate now, Grand Crow, little bit of mistake there, but he now gone back up to P6 and perhaps trying to make a move for P5 with bright yellow KFC in front of him. Ahmad Norazam there in the Y-Lab Ferrari 488. He sits in P5.
So Clawiter was hard on the brakes because I think he was about to hit the back of the Ferrari of Fitzpatrick, so he wanted to avoid contact. He locked the brakes, he went into the grass. I think his car is okay. He didn't hit anything, and I don't think anyone hit him, but you know, this track Wei Han is already providing to be very, very challenging, and these are extremely good drivers, but this front pack has been broken into bits and pieces because of 2-3 mistakes that created a little bit of chaos behind the leaders.
So I do believe this circuit has a good mix of corners, slow hairpin corners clustered together, as well as high-speed sections also clustered to the second half of the circuit. So it has a fair bit of ability for you to do some slipstreaming, as Grand Crow does so with Ahmad Nourazam. They're still driving very close, a bit wide. There goes Ahmad Nourazam, as now Grand Crow perhaps trying to make a move, not close enough for him to make his move down this corner.
Yeah, of course, Crow would be and Clawiter are extremely eager to make up for those lost positions. Seems like they are faster than the guys in front of them, but of course you also have to be consistent, as Nourazam tries to defend and is able to keep his position into the hairpin, so P5 is still owned by that beautiful yellow livery Ferrari. So this pack here, Nourazam, Crow, and a little bit of a gap behind there's Kandur and Clawiter, so basically two distinct battles for the two Porsches that are trying to go and claw back to the positions they were before. In front of Doka, Jali, Oliveira and Fitzpatrick. 1 through 4. Arifin, a late entrant to the race, is in P10 in front of Nelson, the Coca-Cola Porsche. We might hear from him at the end of the race, which would be good. And a long way behind is Federico Teixeira, of course. He had a mistake in the very beginning of the race.
Unfortunate there for Federico, because I guess he had a rather good start. But I believe he got himself into a mistake and went his race. Saiful Arifin currently trying to make a move along the outside of Simon Sanchez. Not exactly a good move here, but it goes ever so close to the gearbox of that Ford GT. So now it is a slipstream there. Simon defending his position well. Now is Arifin going to go for the inside? He does so, and they now go. Great move there. Arifin up to P9. Simon Sanchez down to P10 now. Are they going to go for a comeback? Nope. Arifin able to defend the inside line there, and he seals and he holds on to his newly gained P9.
Nice move there by the Ferrari. And yeah, up to P9. Takes a little bit of bravery to commit to a move through that first corner, because you know that most of the times your opponent is going to be having a good run coming out of it because of the wider arch he is going to take. So you have to be prepared to defend hard into the second corner and the subsequent complex of corners through 5. But he was able to do that, so good move by the Malaysian driver, and he is up to P9. And now I think he will try to close the gap to the guys in front of him as we go back with Grand Crow. And I tell you what, Kandur is closing in on him, so maybe Crow is getting a bit frustrated that he cannot go past Nourazam because he's slowing his pace, and Kandur and Clawiter are closing in on the back of the 205 Porsche.
So of course for the Porsches here, they do have a slight disadvantage on long straights because their top speeds may be a bit marginally less than the Ferraris and the Fords. But that doesn't deter them from attempting to do a slipstream here, as we've seen a bit of a freight train. Of course, each driver now, I believe, within half a second from one another, the gaps apart from one another that they're having here. So Grand Crow still sits in P6. He's just under a second ahead of his friend Jamal Gandur there in P7.
Crow is getting extremely close to the back end of Nourazam's car. You can see the positions dropped by Crow and Clawiter, 2 and 3 respectively. But now I think that Crow has got a good run, and he will try for the move into the hairpin. But great defense. Yeah, great defense once again by Nurazam there. Of course, when you try to go for a move there, Wei Han, you have to be 100% committed because it's extremely narrow through there.
Very much so. Not exactly one of the corners that you'll be able to make a move easily unless the driver in front of you makes a little braking mistake. So let's have a ride on perhaps a rear bumper camera of Ahmad Norazam and have a look at how his line differs from Grand Pro. So here we can have a look at how Grand Pro consistently sits square behind the gearbox of Ahmad Norazam. As we just said, that it deviated a slight bit there. So we do see how they... Yeah, we can see how...
Oh, there's a car
incident there.
Who was there?
I think it's Sam Fitzpatrick. Yes, thank you, Scott.
Oh, it's Fitzpatrick.
So may I want to have a look at the replay and have a look at how Fitzpatrick came to that conclusion.
See, Sam Fitzpatrick, he was losing time. I was about to say to the guys behind and they were battling and he lost the car coming into the corner there. Let's see. No one hit him. So he's good to go once again, but he lost a boatload of time. In front of Arifin, yeah.
Unfortunately, although the drivers managed to avoid him, so that was a relief for him.
So back to live pictures, it's still Crow trying to find a way past Nurazam, but now this has been promoted to a battle for P4. And Evdoka 2 seconds over Jali, then 4 seconds over Oliveira, but apart from that, this is the great battle on track with these 4 cars trying to gain this 4th position as
so
you can
close.
see, Crow basically gets on the back bumper of Oliveira going into that, sorry, of Nurazam going into that corner. So you know he's good on the brakes, still cannot find that extra bit of speed to make the move into that hairpin.
Of course, the Porsches and the Ferraris, their brakes are good, but the Ford has quite a good advantage here because the Ford actually has an even shorter braking distance. It's easier for them to brake. As Jamal there in the background there, losing the position to Grant's teammate Peter Clouter. Of course, Grant Crow, Peter Clouter, Jamal Gandu, P5, 6, 7. 3 of them, they are good friends, and they are based in the Middle East. Of course, a great region there. Very nice people there, and they are building up a good iRacing community, as they've also graciously come on board tonight to have fun here on track.
Yeah, so switch of positions for P6 there, but still you see, as you see, Arifin and Fitzpatrick going at it once again, and Fitzpatrick goes a bit wide in Sunset Bend. Oh, there's contact!
Sorry about that, Marco. Yeah.
They were able to save it, as Kandur is in the pits right now. Very early stop.
Yep, I think both drivers a little bit too aggressive through Sunset Bend. Sam Fitzpatrick versus Saiful Arifin. Of course, Arifin made 5 positions gain from where he started in P12, I believe, or P11, I think, maybe P12 either. And a little bit of going loose there as he exited the curbs there, but Sam Fitzpatrick now all over the gearbox of Saiful Arifin. Take advantage of all the slipstream he can. Sam Fitzpatrick along the inside. Now they come into this hairpin, a comeback from Sam Fitzpatrick, and I don't think Arifin has a chance to retake, his position through the hairpin, but they now come towards this big bend before they then again prepare themselves for a braking zone here. Now Sam Fitzpatrick has regained P7 and he may be able to regain his lost positions.
He has the pace, of course he has a little bit of time to make back to Klauiter, Crow and Nurazam there, but I'm very interested to see if this is a regularly scheduled stop by Kandur, or if this, because you know he lost the position just a few seconds before pitting, so maybe he thought, well, I need to get some clean air, and the numbers say that if I pit now I'm good on fuel, even though it is extremely early, I tell you. Wei Han to take your stop, but we'll see. So now Kandur has completely free track in front of him for miles and miles. We'll see if this is good enough for him to gain over his opponents. We see Grand Crow here and Ahmad Nurazam going at it on the backstretch on this replay.
Side by side, they went through this sunset bend.
That was nicely done by Grand Crow, so he gets the position on Nurazam.
Of course, a move like that is not easily executed. It's easier than it seems, but you have to understand how difficult, how blind and how bumpy the sunset bend is. As we probably, we return to live pictures at this point. Gearbox camera of Grand Crow, and he's ahead of Ahmad Nurazam. And we can just listen to how loud the Porsche engine there. I think it's a flat 6 engine, this Porsche.
I think so, but it's very, very different from the engines that we're used to see in GT3 or the Porsche Cup. Is a very, very much a properly race built Porsche, following the trend of the GTE cars of these years that are basically much more closely relating to prototypes than to actual road-going cars, like the Ford GT and this Porsche here. Whilst the Ferrari, being still, even if it's a new car, still shares much of its base on the GT3 car and the road-going 488, because it was done with a different mindset when it was done. It was looking like the ACO and the FIA were going towards a shared platform between GT3 and GT. That was scrapped in favor of these more prototype cars, but the project was already well in advanced stage, so Ferrari decided to stick with the 488 GT the way it was, and it's still, an absolutely super competitive car.
Great to see that these two drivers are having a battle of sorry, I've lost my words there. A great battle that they're having. So Ahmad Nurazam going ever so closer. Ooh, a bit over the corner there. I think they almost cut the corner there. Of course, this circuit has a fair mix of concrete, asphalt, tarmac runoffs, as well as a fair share of grass and sand runoffs. So there's a track where you've got all sorts of road racing surfaces.
Wei Han, I missed the first round, but you did all 10 of the rounds, and 10 one-hour races means that you have been talking for 10 hours and I've been talking for 9. So I think it's good to, it's normal to run out of words at a certain point of the season.
Pretty much. Yeah, well, I did miss round 2 though. I think round 2 at Spa you did.
Oh yeah? I thought you were there as well, but yeah, also then we are 9 hours tied, basically, as Nurazam gets a good exit here from the penultimate corner going into the Alman Straight. He moves to the inside.
Now this is exciting. Along the inside, side by side, they come. Is Grant going to defend his position? Very hard to say. I think he barely holds on to it. Oh, almost. Side by side there. Ahmad Nurazam, I think he's not able to regain, not able to climb up to P4. So Grand Crow barely holds on to P4. And he now defends the inside line as he just exited turn 1, and now they come to this braking zone before turn, just past turn 2, and now they take these series of corners.
Yeah, at Spa it was me and Mr. Fitzpatrick, now that I think about it, as we see the gap on the right side of your screen between Crow and Clawiter, and the way it's ebbing and flowing throughout these past 5 laps, now sitting at 1.5 seconds. and we might have a Porsche sandwich in a short number of laps with a Ferrari as the meat, as Clawiter is closing in on Nurazam and his teammate.
Yeah, it does look so. Ferrari being sandwiched by two orange Porsches looks like a perfect cheeseburger. They're orange, yellow, orange. So these three drivers take out P4, 5, and 6 respectively. Grant Kramer, Nurazam, and Peter Clawiter. So they have their little breakaway here. If Peter is able to close, to reduce that gap towards Ahmad Nurazam, this may turn out to be an exciting three-way battle for P4. Cameras now down to cameras are down to Saiful Arifin. Of course, Sam Fitzpatrick has made the move earlier on, and Arifin now in the slipstream of Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick trying to come back after his mistake earlier in the race. Still hasn't made too much progress, but you know, we talked about it in the Daytona round as well. You know, when the pace between yourself and the guys you are trying to chase is basically identical, it gets very hard to make up for your mistakes, and that way, you know, you have to keep your mistakes to a minimum in one of these races. Yes, it's 1 hour, it's not a sprint race, but still 1 hour is not enough to make up for some kind of mistake. I mean, you can live with, you know, missing an apex or going just a bit wide, a spin, you know, and then you are in the clutches of another driver, and if this driver has as your draft, especially if he's decently fast through the middle section, it's going to be very, very tough for you to get this driver off your back, as we see right now on board. Arifin is extremely close to Fitzpatrick, and Nurazam is in the clutches of Clawiter for P5, and this is allowing Crow to get a little bit of an escape from the yellow Ferrari, which I think will be under attack soon enough.
Absolutely right, as you're just saying that Peter reloading his guns to gun for P5, a bit of a move he made there as they now approach this section. Have to get a good corner exit here, exceptionally wide curves there along the exit as they now come through this old man straight with the backstretch. Bit of slipstream, Peter Clawiter taking advantage of Ahmad Nurazam's slipstream. Of course, Ferrari has a slightly higher top speed advantage ahead of the Porsche. Now through this sunset bend again, you can see that Peter Clawiter took a narrow entry, owing to the fact that the Porsche is actually able to corner a bit faster than the Ferrari is able to. But Nurazam able to pull ahead of the Porsche by just a slight bit, and he still holds on to P5. Grand Crow, of course, formed a slight bit of breakaway from Ahmad Nurazam. But of course, the major breakaway that we have with us tonight are the top three drivers. Michael F. Doka still in the race lead. He's just 2 seconds ahead of Malaysian legend Jaswin Jali, of course, fastest iRacer in Malaysia. He takes P2, and Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira 5 seconds behind race leader, 2.5 seconds behind Jaswin Jali. So this is a 2.5 second gap that each driver has between one another.
Now I'm thinking about Evdoka being a new driver to the series, but he has some experience in the Le Mans series. We've seen, for example, in the Daytona round of the official Le Mans series, we've covered in the last week. So I think he is 100% sure of what to do in the pit stop. So as Fitzpatrick and Arifin are going at it, I see them switching positions back and forth on the left side of my screen in the column there. So I think he knows, going back to Evdoka, that he has to take only the fuel, as Arifin has lost some positions. So he was in front of Fitzpatrick a few seconds ago, and then he dropped. So I think he made the move, and then something happened, and he dropped back. Let's see the replay. So here is Fitzpatrick in front of Arifin, and there's a significant gap to the cars behind them. Let's see what happened, because I think there must have been some mistake or some contact. Let's see. Oh, we lost the
Locking up.
car. Oh, and then contact, you see? Yeah. So that was unfortunate.
Yeah, rather sticky situation there between Saiful Arifin and Sam Fitzpatrick. So, not the first time. I think Fitzpatrick being involved in a couple of contacts with a couple of paints traded with Saiful Arifin. Now cameras now to live pictures, I believe, of Sam Fitzpatrick. He now still sits in P7 and he leads Simon Sanchez in P8. As
Yeah.
we're just saying that Saiful Arifin trying to make a move on the Coca-Cola Porsche of Paul Nelson in the background there.
Yeah, I mean, that was an unavoidable situation, I think. The moment Arifin locked his brake, went through the corner, and I don't think that Fitzpatrick was expecting that. And, you know, that contact there, trying to avoid him, but it was not possible for Fitzpatrick there. Much different to the contact they had in the final corner, where they were basically throwing their cars at each other a few laps ago. But some good racing there. Too bad for that mistake by Arifin, but it seems that like his car is holding back nicely, holding nicely, and not a lot of damage. So good for him, and he will try to make these moves now on Nelson and Sanchez, and maybe try to get back to Fitzpatrick.
Just about halfway point that we are crossing at this point. So the pit window should be open at this time. We may see drivers beginning to take their pit stops. Riding on board this Ferrari 48 Wildlife Motorsport of Saiful Arifin, of course, in the near distance. Ahead of him is the bright red Coca-Cola Porsche of Paul Nelson. As he now draws closer, takes a rather narrow entry into the corner and a rather wide exit here.
Yeah, as Nurazan is in the pits.
Yes.
So the floodgates have opened, and I think it will be... Oh, and now Nelson with a move on Sanchez. Right in front of us.
Ooh la la. Well, Marco, just looking at that green Ford GT in front of me kind of reminds me of the pig from Angry Birds.
It does.
Yeah, Simon also losing his position to Saiful Arifin. So 2 positions lost there within a span of a couple of corners. So a little bit unfortunate for Simon Sanchez here tonight. He currently sits in P9. And Marco, I do apologize. My caffeine crash has already been kicking in, so a little bit losing energy at this point. If you can bear with me.
No, not a problem, as we see Clawiter here, sitting in P5.
Awkward silence with Peter Clawiter here stealing the show. Nobody in front of him, nobody behind him. Of course, he has a good cushion of a 4-point-something second gap ahead of him, and of course a bit of a gap behind the Lopez de Oliveira and P3 are close distance apart. Although star of the show is Michael F. Doka there in P1, currently leading the race. It's already begun to draw his gap beyond the 5-second mark. We do apologize, a little bit of connection issues that we may have been facing. So we are back with live pictures in front of us right now, and I do believe Marco is also back now.
I am here, yes. Sorry about that, guys. Must have been the Porsche sandwich. But still, Evdoka, Jali Oliveira, 1, 2, 3, Chloe Kraviter in 4th and 5th, and Fitzpatrick as Arifin is in the pits. And he is about to come out of the pits as well. So, Nurazam and Khandur took their stops so far, I think, and Arifin as well. And that's that, I mean, if I'm not mistaken.
Does look like Jamal Gandour has totaled his race. I think he's currently all the way down to P12.
Yeah, and his early pit stop was a 26-second pit stop. And it came very, very early, on lap 8. So, I mean, could have been a very long pit stop because he, like, went full tank. And so, but I'm a little bit concerned about his abilities to finish this race, because usually we saw, I mean, in all the races, Wei Han, we saw if a guy pits that early, usually it spells bad for his fuel strategy later down the road in the race.
Unfortunately so, because Jamal, he pitted at lap 8, whilst with two other drivers, Ahmad Norazam and Saiful Arifin, they pitted at lap 15 and lap 16 respectively. So these three drivers have already pitted. Positions 1 to 9 have yet to pit, although the pit window still remains open. I think we should have 25 or so minutes of racing to go.
Yeah, the clock says 25 minutes left. So if it's wrong, blame the clock, don't blame the messenger. Like it was like in the Watkins Glen week, where I was all over the place with the calculations, so I learned, you know, to blame the clock instead.
As we're just saying that Federico Teixeira has taken the pits I'm not sure what the lap count is at this time. And I think that other drivers should also be making their way in for the field.
As Teixeira is in the pits right now.
My goodness, Marco, my caffeine crash is just screwing me over, man.
I mean, it's decently late there in Singapore, if I'm not mistaken. So it's still you know, early year. So I mean, I am just after lunch, as you probably know, by following the races, the different time zone, and then I have to say one thing. This is really what makes me excited about this series, and you know, gives me a bit. I don't want to sound too philosophical about this, but it's absolutely amazing that a guy from Italy, a guy from Singapore, and a guy from Australia are able to make all this. This broadcast that hopefully kept you company for the past 10 weeks. And the beauty of the internet, I have to say, sometimes we have a little bit of issues, especially because of the big distances between us, but still it's a fantastic experience, and I was proud to be picked as a commentator for this series, and I had a lot of fun. And we still have a bit of fun left for us, because there's a little bit more than 20 minutes left in this final race of the season. So it's not over yet. So and
sure,
by the way, they are suggesting to get a Red Bull, but I think if you get a Red Bull right now, you are not going to sleep at all. I mean, since it's almost
exactly.
that time for you. You got off.
Yeah, Daniel Lee there suggesting that I take a Red Bull, but yeah, I've got like 2 hours before my bedtime at 11 PM Singapore time. course, Marco, I guess it is. Gotta give credit to, of course, attribute to the wonders of the internet, of the digital communities as well that all of us are in. Of course, through iRacing, through the internet, through the communities, we've gotten in touch and made many friends along the way, including friends from all over the world, from all walks of life. And I'm honored and humbled to have been in the presence of all of you guys, every one of you that has crossed paths with me. Of course, I'm saying this because this may well be my last broadcast with Sim Racers Asia before I take a break for some time. Because it's been an amazing experience doing commentary with you guys, with yourself, Scott and Marco.
Of course, we are going to have the season end after today, and it's going to be, of course, the usual iRacing break for the official series and the series that follow the iRacing calendar because of the upcoming week 13. So, but we are not stopping because tonight we are going to have the Euro V8s on Apex Racing TV. So you don't want to miss them. And of course tomorrow it's the IGPS as well as the BSR GT3 with the season finale for that series as well. So Jason Jali is sitting in second place. He is on camera right now, 3.7 back of the race leader Michael Evdoka and 1.2 seconds ahead of Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira. As you see now, Simon Sanchez. .003 car behind the Coca-Cola Porsche of Paul Nelson, and they are fighting for P6 and P7.
I think we are now riding on the chase camera of Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira. Still sits in P3. Oh, I see. I think might be my live timing software messing up.
So Sanchez is getting extremely close to Nelson there in the first corner, but not close enough. That extra bit of Coca-Cola power may be the difference right now in keeping Nelson ahead of his opponent. Going through the very fast section here on the big bend, and then the hard braking hairpin that's coming up in just a few seconds. Here we go. Those cones on the left helping you just a bit in finding the right braking zone, but you know, it's never easy when you have a very angry Porsche right behind you trying to get that position. You're always looking in the mirror and then looking in front of you, especially during the braking zones, and you know, it's always a little bit of a conundrum out there when you are racing hard someone. If you pay too much attention to the rear view mirror, you expose yourself to driving mistakes. But if you look too much in front of you, you might not see a move from your opponent coming. So here we go once again onto the backstretch. Nelson in front of Sanchez. Once again the battle for P6, as they're going to go maybe side by side, but maybe not, because the Porsche has a good line on the outside and then on the inside and then on the outside. I should say left and right.
He went in there to defend. Yeah,
I am too much of an oval guy to actually comprehend the difference between left and right. It's just inside and outside. But now Nelson goes extremely wide. this may give an opening to his opponent, but no. Nelson is still able to maintain the position as we enter turn 1, as there's a Ferrari coming out of the pits, and that of course is Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira.
Oh, contact there between the two Macau teammates.
Oh,
Definitely
man.
not expecting something like that. May have seen it coming, and now Lopez de Oliveira down to P5. It does look to be that the drivers are already leaving their pits. So some drivers are yet to take their pit stops, I believe. Yeah, okay. Simon Sanchez returning P4 to Lopez de Oliveira, of course. Understanding that Leonardo is fighting for the championship, and he's already up there in the championships table, so it is optimal that he retains his leading position.
No, hopefully, it's not a lot of damage, because that was definitely side contact between the two teammates there. That was a tough situation. We've seen that happen over the years in real life as well, that pit exit is extremely difficult, especially if you come up to guys that are battling for position, as Michael Evdoka is in the pits from the race lead. So, just to give you a quick recap, I think he's the last guy that has to pit. So after this pit stop, we should have a definitive picture of what's going on with the standings. Also, Nelson has to pit, of course, and Sanchez as well. So sorry about that. Once again, must be the Porsche sandwich. As Evdoka is coming out of the pits, he's going to be extremely close, or maybe not. Yeah. Not close enough. I mean, 4 seconds. It's the gap between Evdoka and Jali, as Evdoka is comfortably in the lead and looking extremely good for the race win. You see there in the background the dark colored Porsche of Jason Jali, as Sanchez and Nelson are pitting together, and Nelson seems to have the upper end as he's already coming out of the pits. And he sits in front of Sanchez right now. Here they come. Nelson is out of the pits, and Sanchez has lost a lot of time, 5 seconds. Let's see the pit stop times for these two guys. No, they were pretty much the same, but the pit lane time was 3 seconds faster for Nelson, and that's where he made the difference.
Those drivers having done their rounds of hitting, and the positions have returned to what they have been before the pits. So race leader still Michael Evdoka with Jasmin Jali in P2 and Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira in P3. Peter Klauiter, Arman Öresam, Grand Crow there, same thing. Porsche sandwich of a Ferrari inside.
As we see on the right side of the screen, the pit lane time, and of course what sticks out is Khandur's stop, which was extremely long and extremely early, but still is sitting back in P11, so this contrarian strategy didn't work out for him, unless he had to go in for repairs. But once again, we were following him very, very closely before he stopped, so I don't remember seeing any kind of contact or crash. He just ran a bit wide, but still staying on the track when he lost that position, if you remember, I think to Klauiter, and then a few corners later he went into the pits for that very long stop. So I don't think it was well, hopefully he comes back for an interview. He usually comes, because I want to ask him what happened. You know, I think he had some problem last week with his equipment, or maybe it was the Monza week, I don't know. I remember him having little bit of trouble, but I might be mistaken, as another lap goes in the books for Paul Nelson, and he's having a very good race. He's very consistent. Might not be the fastest driver, but I've seen him be very, very consistent all race long, all season long, when he took part in the races. And now he's getting himself a nice P7 out of this, which is not bad for the Coca-Cola Porsche.
Not bad indeed, as he has a bit of a clear room between behind the driver ahead of him as well as the driver behind him. So camera's back onto Ahmad Nurazam now, sitting in P5, still within the Porsche sandwich. And though I think Peter Clouter has extended his lead ahead of or in front of Ahmad Nurazam to 5.4 seconds.
Yeah, and also extending his lead is Jezrin Jali over Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira. Now the gap sits at 4.4 seconds. So the top three are comfortable in their positions as we are heading into the final 10 minutes of the race. And the final 10 minutes of the season as well.
So up to this point, it has been a culmination of so many fantastic racing action that we have witnessed for ourselves. So have the viewers who have loyally stuck with us here on Apex Racing TV. Our coverage of Sim Racers Asia Q3 GTE season here right now. So of course this season usually we run for 11 or 12 weeks, but this time we run for 10 weeks. And well, the field size tonight has been a bit lackluster compared to the usual competition field strength. It is still exciting nonetheless, with quite a lot of battles that have unfolded tonight. So have there been for the past few weeks.
Yeah, and it seems like no matter the size of the field we get, always some kind of interesting battling all over the track, because some of these drivers are very nice and equally on the same pace. As you see, Handour trying to close the gap on Fitzpatrick as well. So Fitzpatrick was very fast in the beginning of the race. He had a nice debut race in Daytona last week, but since his mistake, and I don't think he hit anything in that mistake, he just spun around. He has been a bit slower than what we expected, and now he's oh, and maybe a mistake for Evdoka, yes, a mistake for Michael Evdoka. He's around in the final corner, and this gives Jali and Oliveira positions 1 and 2. Unbelievable stuff, Wei Han.
Unbelievable turn of the tables. So Evdoka, yep, sunset bend, of course. This corner, you have to be absolutely careful with your entry. He didn't exactly perfect his entry, and he lost his balance through the weight of the car through all the way to the front. He lost his rear end, and to the inside of the corner he went around. So a hard fight, been retaining the race lead all race long, but he loses his command of the field to Jezrin Jali and even Lopez de Oliveira.
He must be furious with himself. He was having an amazing debut, commanding race from him. He led basically from the get-go. He started in P2, got first position soon after that, and was running away in the distance, beating the top two drivers of the championship. But you know, these tires are getting worn, Wei Han, and he was caught out, I think, by the bumps and the worn tires, and I wouldn't say a lack in concentration, because I know Michael. I've been following him since the first season of the Euro V8. He commented when he won the title last season, and he was a spot-on driving under pressure and winning the title in the final race of the season. So I can't say I'm expecting, you know, this being lacking concentration, but still, what an amazing moment. And Jezrin Jali, I think, is very happy about this, because he will get full points, barring any other mistake, because, you know, we just saw that no lead is ever safe, especially in endurance racing. When you get deep into the race, you are more prone to making mistakes, I think.
Can say so because, of course, when you're having the lead of the race, you have a lot to lose. You have a lot of pressure on your shoulders, and it's easier for you to slip. Although these drivers, they've managed to maintain their composure all race long. These drivers in front, they're pretty much racing drivers of their own class. Of course, being a top 3. Even also the drivers all the way extending down to P6. These are all fast drivers in their own right. So if Doka now settling for P3, he's only got a couple of minutes to regain whatever position that he's lost. I'm not too sure if he's able to do that because he still sits behind, or rather he currently sits behind Lopez de Oliveira, who is in P2 at the moment. Gap between them fluctuates between 0.6 of a second, 0.5 of a second, and probably going to extend to 0.7 of a second as we progress through the rest of this track. Not too long till the end of this race, and white flag should be out in the next couple of laps.
And you know, this in the end might benefit Jali not only for the race win, but I think that Evdoka has the better pace over Oliveira and will try to go for a move. So we might have Jali in first, Evdoka in second, and Oliveira in third come the end of the race. That could benefit, of course, the championship hunt. Oh, mistake there by Oliveira, coming out of the penultimate corner, and now it's a great run for Evdoka on the outside, on the left side of the track, going into Sunset Bend. They are going to be side by side. Wow, so close. Oh, drifting.
Oh, mistake Evdoka there by Evdoka, and he runs very, very wide. Almost made it up to P2 to regain his lost position, but misses out on that. Leonardo Lopez Oliveira holding on to P2, just barely held on to it, and I think there's not much of an opportunity that Evdoka has to regain that. Because Evdoka probably already having so much pressure on his shoulders, and he slipped a bit through that corner.
Man, he's going to remember that corner tonight, because when he goes back to sleep, because he lost the lead there and he almost crashed out of a podium position in the basically 2 laps later, and now if he tries again for a move there, I would guess he's going to be very, very cautious and maybe not able to complete the move, because you know, the doubt starts to creep in the back of your mind. You know, I've taken that corner three times in the last 3 laps, and 2 times I almost crashed. Well, I spun and I almost destroyed my car into the fence, so maybe next time I should take it a little bit easier, you know?
Yes, you should, because that corner isn't meant to be just taken lightly. It demands quite a lot of respect, as Evdoka gone a little bit wide there. I think he's already feeling the pressure, stress as he completes these few corners, leading to the end of this race that will I'm lost all words again. That will happen in a short while. I'm so sorry, caffeine crash has a total at this point. Now, of course, riding on Evdoka, this loud Ferrari 488, not as loud as the Porsche, but still loud. Now, of course, blaring through my earphones here. He sits just under a second behind Leonardo there. Alright, taking the corner nicely, getting a fair line through that corner and not making a mistake through this section. So back onto the main straight they come. Gap still within 0.9 of a second, so he has only 1 opportunity left to make a move. And surprise, surprise, Jaswin Jali up in the race lead, 6 seconds ahead of these 2 drivers.
Yeah, he's being consistent, that's for sure, and when your opponent makes a mistake, you profit from it, no shame in that. And he's sitting nicely in P1. As we get closer and closer to the end of the race, and we see if Evdoka goes for another move on his opponent.
Not much of an opportunity left for Evdoka to regain his lost ground, because leading towards the end of the race. Let's have a look back at Jasrin Jali, as he along with the rest of the guys in 2 and 3 have been the stars of this race so far. So Jasrin Jali, fastest iRacer by iRating in Malaysia road racing, that is. He comes through this right-hander for the final time, perhaps, if this is a white flag. Along this backstretch he comes, just like Suzuka, just like a few races earlier this season, the races that he's won. Usually he'd face competition along the final corners of the circuit, not here, just like Suzuka, not here at Sebring, and he comes along the final lap. Thank you, Scott, I do apologize. One more lap to go, one more lap for Jasrin to push hard and perhaps even maintain his lead ahead of P2. Of course, gap has been slightly reduced to 5.3 seconds ahead of Leonardo in P2.
Evdoka lapping much faster than Oliveira this final lap, but you see the gap, and he needs to get a little bit closer if he wants to make that move. You know, it won't be, of course, as good as a win, but a nice move into the second place. Second spot on the podium would be nice for his debut race here in Sim Racers Asia GT for Michael Evdoka, and he's extremely close. You see, riding the back bumper of the fellow Ferrari, the green Ferrari. Nice camera shot here from the curb as we see Oliveira now looking in his mirrors, try to defend, as in front, of course, this is only helping Jali because he's getting you know, clear track in front and behind in his race towards the checkered flag and perhaps the series title. Wei Han, the chances for Evdoka are getting less and less you know, high.
Slimmer and slimmer.
Yeah, slimmer and slimmer. Thanks, man. Because you know, we are getting closer to the final corner. He has a great exit, as we see Jasrin Jali take the final corner, and of course, Wei Han, you have the call for the race end.
Thank you so much, Jasrin Jali of Malaysia Wildlife Motorsports. This dark grey Porsche here, fantastic drive by him all season long. Series leader up to this point of Pro-Am class. He comes along the final corner, Sunset Bend, and along the start-finish line, and he wins at Sebring, flashing lights there. Lopez de Oliveira and Michael Evdoka there, battling for P2 and 3. Very, very close battling there in the background, although it is the Lopez de Oliveira taking up P2. Not too sure what's happened to Michael Evdoka.
I think he spun. I heard some tire squealing, so that corner caught him out for the third time today. As we see Clawiter coming around, and also I think Nelson had a crash on the final lap because he dropped down to P9. But still, here we go, and Clawiter is in P4. Nurazam will end the race in P5. Here he comes Nelson, and he goes by Arifin, a very slow Arifin. So maybe there was contact between the pair, and he's letting him by. I don't know, we'll have to catch that back later maybe. I think Paul Nelson promised us an interview. He gets P8 in the end, with Arifin in P9, and Fitzpatrick should be able to, well, Khandur was able to finish the race despite the super early pit stop, but still only in P11, and Teixeira had a mistake in the opening of the race, like I think the first lap. He was able to hang on to his car. He ran along most of the day. He had a nice track day, I think, out there, but still good for him to finish the race in P12.
Because great racing all season long here. We've come to the end of this Sebring round here, round 10 here this season. Also a combination of a season of great racing. Of course, we've been blessed by the gracious presence of real racing drivers here in this series. Of course, you have the likes of Jamal Gandour, who is a GT Academy finalist in the Middle East. And you've also actually have Simon Sanchez and Federico Teixeira. They are actually racing drivers. They raced in the Macau Grand Prix a couple of years ago, so they are also legendary drivers in their own right. Lopez de Oliveira, as far as I'm aware, he's a kart racing driver also in Macau. Sorry, these thoughts just coming right to my mind at this last moment. Be reminded of the notes. So very much petrol heads here, all of them in their own right. Their presence here in this series.
So we should have the final race results for you, as of course we have some nice shots from the chopper on top of Sebring International, the race winner, 5 seconds over Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira. Michael Evdoka finishes in third, 12 seconds back, so quite clearly a crash in that final corner. Peter Claviter is in fourth and Nurazam is in fifth. Grant Crow, sixth place. Then seventh is Simon Sanchez and eighth place for Paul Nelson, just in front, like you saw before, over Shaiful Arifin. Then P10 for for Sam Fitzpatrick, P11 for Jamal Khandour, and P12 for Federico Teixeira. No retirements, so good. Even, I was talking about the Teixeira, he had a mistake in the beginning. He honored the race, he finished the race in P12, so no retirements, and that is it for the SRA GTE Series for this season. And I think we are waiting on interviews. In the meantime, I think I would like to thank all of you that follow this season, and that, this is a little bit of a odd time zone for us in Europe, but the fans have been there. I've been interacting with some of you for the entire season. Thank you once again, Scott and Wei Han, for sharing the booth with me and sharing the fun in commentating on this fantastic championship. And I seriously hope that we get another shot next season, because I've had a lot of fun and seeing these drivers on track, drivers that, usually you don't get to commentate on, because when we do our regular stuff here on Apex, it's usually in the European nights. So, well, you guys are almost all sleeping by then, so you don't get to race in the SOFs of the Le Mans series, for example, or in the other leagues that we usually run in the evening and midweek or week and evenings. So it has been an honor. I learned about some extremely fast drivers, Jali, Oliveira, but all the others. It has been absolutely a pleasure and an honor to commentate on this series. So thank you guys, and it has been an amazing ride. And also I think Wei Han would like to, do the usual roundup for, and I think a deserved, a roll call for all the people that made this series and this broadcast possible.
Absolutely, of course, the people behind, the wonderful people behind pretty much everything that's made this series, this experience possible for one and all to enjoy. Because you have Sim Racers Asia, the organization, the community that's been steadfastly putting up this series, not only just this season, but for many, many years that this has been running. So, of course, for this season, we have the benefit of the pleasure of Kevin Huang and Bruno Cardoso, these two drivers, for performing the race, or rather, for running the race week in and week out, as well as to tend to race stewarding and to the points calculations, championships, and things like that. Of course, Bruno working hard week in and week out, so has Kevin. Of course, to Fuji Satono, as well as guys from the community, for powering this broadcast. Without them, this broadcast would not have been possible. And also a special shout out to Mark Lang. We've not really seen him much this season, but he is who we call the godfather of Sim Racers Asia, of iRacing here in Singapore, as well as in the Asia Pacific. Special shout out to yourselves, Marco Barbanera, Scott Newton, you guys for your presence here in the comms booth, carrying out for putting up this for being present for sorry, Marco, I had a loss of words.
Don't worry.
Thank you guys so much thank you guys so much for covering this race, encapsulating, bringing out, conveying all the emotions and actions of this race to the many viewers here as well as the families and friends of these drivers who perhaps enjoy what we bring to them, enjoy the racing action from home. And it's been an amazing ride.
I want to also thank Scott Newton for giving us the official confirmation, like you saw on the screen right now. The official standings in the end of the season. We have the pro champion. It's going to be Jazrin Jali, and of course, Leonardo Lopez de Oliveira, like you see right now on the screen, is your SRA GTE Clubman champion. So we have we can send off the broadcast with the knowledge. We have. Oh, well, we have an interview, by the way. So hold on to your bricks, guys, because we have Michael Evdoka, and it's a pleasure to interview him. It's been a very exciting debut for him in the series. And Michael, that final corner in the last laps provided to be a bit of a challenge for you. As a spin where you were in the lead, then you almost crashed into the wall, and then I think something else must have happened on the very last corner of the race.
Yeah, most definitely. I was leading by quite a bit, and I switched off, which is the one thing you don't do.
Well, I said I'm sure everything could have happened, but I'm not. One thing I'm sure about is that this was not a lapse in concentration, and of course I was wrong then.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just literally switched off into that corner, and then obviously from there I'm trying to fight back, and it was never going to happen with the few laps that I had left. So, but for a debut, it's been fantastic. I was amazed to be at the front in the first place. To be honest, I'm sure Jari was going to be in front of me, but. Yeah, amazing race. I really enjoyed it. To come back from to even get third, I'm happy with that, to be honest. So yeah, rock on next season, and yeah, it should be a joy to drive.
So that basically leads me into the next question, you know, you are the defending champion of the Euro V8s, but you elected not to defend your title, and I absolutely understand that. And lately, I've been seeing you doing some LMP2 racing, some GT racing. So is this what you're going to do into the future on iRacing?
Yeah, most definitely. I've sort of decided to have a bit of a change with the cars I'm using, and I'm sort of moving towards the GTE cars a lot more, driving the GTE cars. So hopefully this season continues, and I can do it next season as well. And you'll see me in the official races a lot more as well.
Fantastic, and it's always good to have a driver of your caliber around here. So thank you, Michael. Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Just Fitzdie, been absolutely fantastic. Lots of setup help and all the rest of it, and all of their sponsors. Fantastic stuff from them guys, and made me feel very welcome.
Thank you, Michael, and congratulations on the fantastic race and the podium in the end.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers to you guys as well. You do a fantastic job on these streams.
So we are getting near, the season is over. I usually close the broadcast for the series, but I will leave the honor to Mr. Wei Han to close the final broadcast of the season.
Thank you so much. It has been an amazing season of Sim Racers Asia Racing here. So I'm gonna close this in different fashion tonight. Selamat malam, Terima kasih semua. Selamat malam. 这么多位观众，非常感谢你们。晚安。咁多位，多謝晒早唞。Thank you all so much for watching, for tuning in to this broadcast by Apex Racing TV. Have a great night and see you around.